It was always a novel. So I was actually on a sailboat when I got this idea. I was sailing across the Atlantic and I had a dream halfway across about these two twins who go missing from their family's yacht. And I knew as soon as I woke up that it was going to be a novel. I also knew I had this kind of sense because I'd written six novels beforehand, and I had a sense I had never had before that this was going to be the book that got me published. The main characters, the people who've gone missing, are this family of four. They're called the Camerons, and they are this just wealthy, luxurious, glistening family. These are America's sweethearts. The mother, Lila Logan, she was a movie star in the 90s, and the father, Francis, he was very much pull himself up by his bootstraps. He went from 0 to 100 and became a billionaire based all off his own merit. And then they have their twins, which are Rylan and Tia, who are kind of the antithesis of each other. So these four characters, I love a four character model. I did the same thing in my pirate musical. It's kind of, I see it as a square where you've got the foils on the corners, and then you've got the characters who are like each other but don't want to be on the edges. So the four of them are incredibly dysfunctional, incredibly intertwined. They love each other, they hate each other. It's the worst a family could be in the worst possible place a family could live. The boat it's this luxury sailboat. And I thought this was an interesting point because a lot of rich people who have boats, they have yachts. And the yachts have engines. They don't sail their own yachts because nobody wants to do that. But this family, they have a luxury sailboat precisely because the father, Francis, he wants to feel as though he's an adventure. He wants to feel as though he can still control something, and he wants to be involved. He calls himself the captain. There are more experienced crew members aboard, but so the boat very much becomes the reason that this all went wrong. It's kind of ties up the luxury of the family, but also this, I guess, this hubris that the family manifests in this beautiful, unattainable vehicle that ends up making them all go missing. Yeah, I loved the idea of seven people going missing. So I thought, okay, there's this family of four, and then they need three crew members. Who are these three crew members? The first one is an actual sailor. She's like, I think it says somewhere in the book, she's a real old salt. And she's been sailing her whole life. She should be in charge. And her name is MJ. She's this old Southern lady who is tough as nails and has known the kids since they were little and is also a professional diving instructor. So she's the sailor. Then we have Alejandro Matamoros, who is Francis's childhood best friend, who kind of came with him from rags to riches. They were just these two teenage boys together, and now he's been strung along onto Francis's wild career. And he acts as the family's chef, but also as their very close confidant in different ways for different family members. And then lastly, we have at the very last second, one of the crew members drops out for reasons. So Alejandro contacts his nephew, Nico, who is a young sailor, kind of a vagabond. He just goes around throughout the world, and he is not much older than the twins. So he gets to have that relationship with them while also dealing with his uncle. So there's another smaller family besides the main family that's on board. I love Jerry. Jerry's my favorite character. He's in my opinion, we needed someone outside of the family because the other three perspectives are Tia, the daughter, Rylan, the son, and Lila, the mother. But Jerry is our opening to the story. He is your everyman. He's a fisherman in South Florida. He's always been a fisherman. He's dealing with his ex-wife, and he named his boat after his ex-wife. So he's this silly to us as the readers, but regular kind of guy. And he finds the boat. And when he finds the boat, I think most people would have phoned it in and left, or just left and never said anything. But Jerry has a past with nautical disasters, with things going wrong at sea. So he feels immediately that something is very wrong. He boards the boat, and that sets everything else into motion. The old rule of salvage, which is still true today in the United States, is that if you find something at sea and no one claims it within 30 days, you keep it. So Jerry, who's this average, just very humble fisherman has suddenly skyrocketed to owning this multi-million dollar luxury sailboat. In this first chapter, he's just feeling frustrated. He sees this beautiful boat that's kind of like slanted, the sails are luffing, and he's just thinking, why are all these rich people so incompetent? Why can't they steer their boat? I almost hit them. They should have seen me. So he's not thinking about any of that in the beginning. And then he has the sense of dread because of what he's experienced in the past that something is wrong. And then the boat becomes very much to him this the thing that he never got in his life. I think that the dreams he would have had as a young man to be a wealthy captain, to be a sailor on a boat like this. And now suddenly, as an older man, he's handed it, but it doesn't feel right. And people are missing and they could turn up, or maybe they never will. And he has to deal with all of these things he never dealt with as a young man, because we use she, her pronouns for the boat the whole time because that's how sailors talk about their boats, like her, she. And so the Old Eileen is the name of the boat. She, as a character, represents everyone's worst fear, but also their greatest dream. She is the embodiment of the Cameron family's wealth. She is the embodiment of one of the twins' greatest fears and of the mother's trepidation of being out at sea, which she doesn't like. The embodiment of Jerry's what could have been, what might have been, what suddenly is, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And also of the people in Jerry's past who he has lost, his ex-wife, his brother. So she's kind of operating in all these characters' stories as the ghost. It's the people who are missing, but it's the old Eileen who is sliding in and out of these people's lives that is wreaking all this havoc in sort of an atmospheric supernatural kind of way, because she's not alive. But if she were, would things have happened the same way? Is there some kind of, the spirit of the ocean inhabiting the boat? And there's an article in the very beginning of the story that talks about how the ocean is karma to the 1%, how nature and the big things that are out of the only things that are out of rich people's control are slowly taking back what never should have belonged to them in the first place. So I think the old Eileen is also a little bit of that. It's kind of this vengeful angel, or sometimes the saving angel. I don't think I could have written this if I hadn't gone on the sailboat. I mean, just I wouldn't have been able to research all the sailing terms, but also I think my life was changed when I went to sea, when I crossed the Atlantic. And there was so much about that experience that deepened the story for me. So if I had written it without that experience, I think it would have been, shallow. I think it would have been me trying to imagine what it's like being out in the middle of the ocean when nobody is around and there's no lights anywhere. And the only sound you hear is the sound that the water makes against the boat. And I know what that's like, but I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it without the trip.